there's a very profound aspect right in the beginning of today's parsha. The inyan itself is discussed in many places, and there's a sikha from Rabbi that discusses the inyan as it is expressed in Rashi. We will discuss that, and as we always do, try to kind of relate ourselves to what we're learning. Right in the beginning, Shmois b'nei Yisrael aboin Mitzrayim. In general, it's interesting. Names, Shmois b'nei Yisrael, these are the names of Bnei Yisrael. And earlier also in Parshas Vayigash, the Torah goes through and mentions by name each one of the 70 people that came to Mitzrayim, by name. Don't recall whether we ever discussed the phenomenon that one of the great things that Adam Rishon did, the first task that he was given, was to name all the creatures. Vayikra Adam Shemes, Adam gave names to all the creatures. And that is a central theme, a central in that relation of the creation. And then, even before that, when Adam Rishon was created, it says also that Hashem named him Adam.
What is that? So he only had to name all the creatures, or he also had to name all of creation? Adam.
In the Pasha, it says that he named all the creatures, all the livestock, the animals.
And like trees and stuff like that, he didn't do? No.
It doesn't mention anything about trees. Right. All the behemoths and the chayas and the birds. And Adam himself, right at the moment of creation, it says that Hashem created Zocher and Keva, Vayikra Eshmom Adam, and he gave him the name Adam, B'yem Hiboram, in the day that they were created. There must be something extremely significant in this whole phenomenon of names, of giving names. And then, coming back to our parsha, it says, these are the names of Bnei Yisrael aboin Mitzrayim. And Rashi comments over here that this is to tell us how precious the Jewish people are by Hashem, that they are being counted by name, just like the stars are being all the stars, it says that Hashem brings them forth by number, and to each he applies a name. So, in this particular parsha, the emphasis, as Rashi points out, is the preciousness, the dearness, the love that Hashem has for the Jewish people, which is expressed by referring to them by name, and also by counting them. How many are there? So the Rebbe briefly explains in the Sikha. I just want to mention briefly the Sikha, and then we'll go to the broader discussion. that there are two primary ways, two manners of extreme expression of love, and that is the count and the name. These manners of expression of love are even superior to every other means. The Rabbi explains, for instance, that a parent can give gifts to a child, could hug a child, could even kiss a child, but the preciousness of referring to a child by name, and then even to elongate the name by endearment, like Ichale and Berale, and in this is further. This expresses more the affection than anything else. And the Rebbe explains briefly that in these two things, in the number and in the name, are expressed the very essence of the person. The number, where every individual is counted as one, regardless of his capabilities. That clearly alludes to the very essence of the person, because the differences between people are only in their functioning level. One is smarter than the other, one knows more than the other, one has accomplished more than the other, but the very essence that he has a neshama, and this neshama is a godly neshama, that does not vary, there's no difference. And each one has an equal presence. This is the number. This is the what's called, when the Rebbe, and this is referring to what's called the essence of the neshama, the way the neshama is unto itself. This is the essence of the yid. Then there is the name. The name of the person is also referring to the essence, but it is referring to the essence, not the essence of the neshama as it is above, but the essence of the neshama as it relates here to the body. When the neshama in mislab, the neshama connects and relates to the body and becomes a functioning entity in the world, this is where the name is applied. So therefore, these are the two things over here, the number and the name. Eden came into Mitzrayim. I'm briefly just giving the points of the Sikha. Eden came to Mitzrayim, into Golus, and they're due to go through extremely trying situations, trying moments. And what will give them the strength to sustain those difficulties and retain their identity? The Gemara says, this is one of the great miracles of Mitzrayim, that despite the fact that Eden were subjugated to completely subhuman treatment, as you will learn, you already learned that they did everything to break their spirit. Beforech, you already learned that they caused them to work beforech. Kol avidosam, all the work that they did was aimed to be beforech. And what does beforech mean? Beforech means a means of work, a means of treatment that breaks a person's spirit. It's called beforech. Just like you take something and you break it up into little pieces, lefarech, to break things into a powder. It's called lefarech. You break a person's spirit. And that was the aim. That was focused on the Eden, to the point where Pare gave out the Gzeira that a child should be killed while in the womb before he gets born, and then that didn't work, so he gave a gzera that the male child should be thrown into the Nile. Should be thrown into the Nile. Totally subhuman, bestial type of gzeras. Yeah. What gave the Eden the ability, the spirit, to carry it through and to come out? They were broken, clearly, but they came out, while they were broken, they came out as a nation. And when Moshe Rabbeinu came to them and told them, "You're coming free," they said, "Great, we're coming free." We have to project and understand what it means. An enslaved nation for the subjugation was like over 80 years of the whole generations, and subjugated in such a state, and they're ready to come out free. That means that there was a spirit of freedom still, so to speak, burning within them.
So how's it before?
I'm sorry?
So how are their spirits before?
That was their aim, was l'farich. They didn't succeed.
Right. Oh.
Clearly. That was the aim, l'farich. Regardless of what they did, they maintained their spirit, and they kept to the point where it says that leshinos leshonim, they didn't change their language, they didn't change their names, they retained their identity throughout this horrific experience.
But they didn't say though that they wouldn't have let them change it, even if they wanted to. Even if they would have changed it, it wouldn't have made a difference. To the whole thing.
I don't understand where you're getting it from.
What?
They wouldn't let him change it. What are you saying?
Yeah, from what I understand.
Why do you understand that?
They're trying to get rid of them, and they don't feel that, like, if they're trying to get rid of them, I suppose even if they tried to change it, they wouldn't let them do it.
What makes you say that?
Right?
What makes you say that?
Based on their whole policy toward the Jewish people, like if maybe the Jews.
On the contrary, maybe they want them to lose their identity. They should be assimilate and lose their national identity.
Well, how come Pari didn't let them intermarry with the Jews?
Who says it didn't?
Well, I thought that
Who says it didn't?
Even the Midrash and whatever. That one thing that he did.
No, the Yidden didn't. That was the whole miracle that they kept clear. Just the opposite. It says later on that when the Eden were counted in the desert, so it says Chanoich Mishpachas Achanoichi, Falu Mishpachas Afalui. So Rashi says that Shiftei called that this Yud K that was added to their name, Yud K Ha Falui Yud K was added to their name because the Rebbe said add this name so that this will attest to the fact that they are purely who they are. And the Egyptians had no effect on them. That was because Yidden kept their purity, not because the Egyptians kept them out. I don't know where you're coming from. Please, let me just. Okay. So, what gave the Eden the strength to sustain this and to come through as a whole entity, as a whole nation, to the point that just about a month and a half later they were ready to receive the Torah on Har Sinai. They were able to reach the highest levels to receive the Torah and say Nasa v'Nishma, dig into the deepest aspect of their soul. So clearly they came out unscathed. And that is because of this minion and names, because they were given this strength that comes from the Etzem and Nefesh. And Etzem and Nefesh are these two elements. This minion, the number, refers to the neshama as it is above, And the name refers to the neshama as it is on a functional level in the body. So both of these gave him the strength to carry it through and to come out pure Jews with all the full strength of a Yid. This is briefly this in the Sikh. I want to speak in general, based on what we see here, the names, and as we mentioned before, one of the great things that Adam Rishon did, and Hashem gave him names and so forth. And ultimately, this will carry great significance for each one of us. Yes.
Is the fact that Hashem counted them and the fact that He named them, that helped them maintain their spirit?
Yeah, that brought out their essence. In the human being, there are two distinct levels. There's the functioning level and there's the essential level. The functioning level means, let's say a person is a carpenter, a person is an accountant, a person is a lumberman. This is all defining his activities, what he is doing, what he's able to do.
So what are these two levels for?
Excuse me?
So these two levels are for what? The nefesh? These are two levels for the nefesh?
These are two levels with which we identify a person. We'll come that. Two means by which we identify a person. By his function. Now, when we talk about a function, if a person is a very capable person, and his capabilities are expressed in very significant and meaningful and worthwhile activities, then we can say that this person is of worthy status. That's based on his function. Now, function, the value based on function, is true not only by a human being, lahavdil, animals also. As a matter of fact, animals also, Adam Rishon gave names, as we shall see, because their function is also important. Because animals were named by their function. Like a sus was named by the name. Sus means that he has the spirit to run. A chamoyer has the ability to tolerate weight and patience and all that. Everyone was named by their function. So lahavdil, animals also have a functional value. Only the human being has, in addition to a functional value, has what's called an essential status. This we mentioned many times, and it is an extremely important concept to relate to understand. Even though in truth, everyone inherently understands it and knows it, but it is important that we know it not just inherently, but we know it consciously and we really reflect on it. The one thing that we see in a human being that everyone recognizes is that, let's say, if a person reaches a state, chas v'sholom, say, once a person is at the last moments of his life, and but this is what's called in halacha goisis, reaches the last moments of his life, And in those moments, we know that if any disturbance, any challenge, any disturbance, anything that would cause him to do any extra effort, may Hashem cause him to expire. He doesn't have the strength for anything. In those moments, you have to be left alone completely, and whatever he does, it's entirely limited to what he does. And the halacha is that a person in that state, where he is totally useless, so to speak, in terms of functionality, there's nothing that he can contribute to the world or to anyone. And yet, he has the full status of a living person, like a full 100% status. And chas v'sholom, somebody touches him or does anything that will tax his nerves or tax his heart or whatever, and will cause his life to be shortened by a second, God forbid, he is guilty of murder.
How do you spell geises?
Huh?
How do you spell geises?
Gimel Vav Samach Samach. He's guilty of murder, unequivocally, without any difference. What did he do? This person was due to pass away any second. And besides, what's his life worth? No fun, no functionality at all. This is one example, one instance, where we come to a clear recognition from halacha, from the Torah perspective, of what's called the intrinsic, the essential status of a human being, of a yid. His very presence in the world has enormous significance, and he represents truly a godly presence. I should have prepared a Shulchan Aruch. If you have an Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, I want to show you something here. The first chelik.
The new ones and old ones?
It makes no difference.
New one, yeah. You have to look at the text.
It's the same Shulchan Aruch, essentially. All right. This is Siman Kuf Chof. Siman Kuf Chof at 120. It's a short Siman, and it talks about the bracha and Shemoneh Esrei of Ritzei. Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu B'Amcha Yisrael. It's a phenomenal little thing. What? You saw it? You remember it? Yeah.
Maybe you said something like this before. I don't know.
I mentioned something like this before.
I don't know exactly.
Okay. You could take note and you look it up. It's a phenomenal thing. It's right in Shulchan Aruch. In the say we say V'isha Yisrael was philosophy B'Avos Kabbalah Rotzim. Isha Yisrael. What is Isha Yisrael? Isha means a fire offering. Eish Kamlosh, a fire offering. And what the Rebbe says, and the Shulchan Aruch says that this is where the Yidden give their neshama to the Meibashon on every word and every breath that comes from them. Now, what the point of this is is as follows. This repeat all the time. I don't remember I said it here. Maybe I did. The Rebbe created the world, and he created a big world. And there are innumerable different creatures, different species, on all levels. On doimeim is the inanimate. There are hundreds and maybe thousands types of rocks, and different shapes and different colors, different density, different schoolers, different capabilities, different services, and so forth. From the precious diamond to a simple rock. And then there are in the plant life, we know that there's innumerable different plants. And the thing that we mentioned one time, that one of the great miracles of the world, of the godly world, is that there are no two leaves alike, identical. The same tree, and you can readily identify this is a leaf from the fig tree. There's no question about it. No two leaves are identical. These are all individual creatures. All that, whatever the purpose is, one thing it certainly, so to speak, brings color to the world. Right? Takes away this simplicity and boredom. Whatever you look, it's a different color, and it's a different shape, and different seasons. The same tree. In spring it looks one way, in the middle of summer it looks another way, and the fall it looks another, different way. And then there are the animals. The animals are also, thousands and tens of thousands of different species, and within them there are different shapes, and it goes also from an amoeba, from a one-celled animal, all the way to the huge mammoth creatures. All of these things were created in the world in the first 5.5 days of creation. The world was all finished already, with the sun and the moon rotating, everything in place. At that moment, at that time, the world, there was no human being still in the world. And without a human being, we all agreed, I think we discussed it one time, the world had no significance. Had no significance. Then came the human being, and he changed the whole spectrum. All of a sudden, the world became a real world. What was so special in this union that the human being brought to the world, and it became a real world? It's a real creation. Since this is not the first time we're discussing it, I want to give you a clear handle on this point. Let us project, let us imagine, you get invited to somebody as a guest. Come for supper. You invite you for supper. You went to his house for supper. A guest, be my guest. So he takes you into his house. And he serves you a lavish dinner. All the trimmings. Beautiful dinner, everything. Sets it up in front of you. And As soon as you sit down by your dinner, he says, okay, enjoy your dinner, goodbye. I'm going elsewhere. I have a business to do. You get the point? How would you feel? Pretty miserable, huh?
I think some people do that, actually.
I'd like you to think about this and say, would you be able to eat that dinner, or you would just get up and run out of the house? Or take the dinner and throw it in his face?
You can't because you ran away.
What?
You can't because you ran away.
Because he left. You catch him still.
I eat dinner, throw the thing in his face, and then run out.
Right? What's wrong? He gave you a dinner. Or let's say, in the reverse, he serves you a beautiful dinner. And you say, beautiful, wonderful. You pack it up into your packle, and you walk out. Okay, thank you. What would you think of that?
If I was him, if I was the one serving,
Excuse me?
if I was the one serving the dinner, you mean?
But either way. Okay, clearly we all see that this is what is it? What in fact? How do we identify this? It's shocking. It's disgusting. What's so terrible about it? Now let's understand it. I want to ask you a simple question before we go to understand it. Let's say the same thing happens to a cat. You bring a cat into your home and give him eat, and he takes the food out and runs away with it. Would you be equally insulted?
Some people do.
Well, he's not on your level.
It's not because it's not on your level. This is the phenomenon of the human being. What changed when the Rebbe created a human being in the world? It's not a question of change. It's beyond change. It's a new perspective. Totally. Before that, there was a dinner. Now there is a dinner with a host. Who recognizes the host? All the animals in the world recognize their dinner, their food. What they need, they should provide for every creature in the world all they need. And they fight for it. The only one who eats only because there's a host with him. He eats because, wow, there's the Creator. And if there's no host, he can't eat. He loses interest in everything. This is the human being. This is what changed. What was the first thing that Adam Rishon did? When the Gemara says, Adam Rishon, what did he, the first thing that he did? He opened his eyes and he looked around and he saw the beautiful world. He got up and he called all the creatures together and he said, let us go and bow to our Creator. That was the first thing he did. This is the pasuk in Tehillim that we say Friday night, because that's when Adam Rishon said it. And if he does not see the Creator, If he does not recognize, then he can't find. Then he can't face himself. Then his whole presence, his whole existence, is unenjoyable. He cannot live with that. It's like I said, having the dinner, and the host is leaving you alone, or taking the dinner with you, and leaving the host behind. All the animals and all the creatures, even the goyim, can live without the host, as long as they have their food. This, as we pointed out many times, for those of you familiar a little bit, this is the theory, the presentation of the communists. They said all a human being needs is to fill his belly.
Is that why they don't put it in Russia for everybody?
That's why their onslaught was on religion, because their focus was do away with everything that is human. All you need is fill the belly. What in fact is the human being that the Rabbi created? The human being that Hashem created is that presence that cannot live without a significance, without a meaning, without a godly presence. This godly presence in the human being, this is what gives the human being the sense, the meaning, that what we said before, the essential presence. What is an essence? Everything in the world is only functional. Functional, it has a value to the extent that it can do something. It can produce, like a behemoth, an ox can be used to plow the field, a horse can be used to draw a wagon. Every creature in the world has its functional value. The human being has, in addition to a functional value, and primarily his value is not the functional, but the essential. Where does he get such an essential value? Why is he so essential? The very presence of the human being, that is a reality. This is because he represents the godly presence in the world. That's what the human being is. He represents the godly presence in the world. This is, a fundamental truth of the human being, even though that, so to speak, in the course of time, in the course of one's life, a person sometimes forgets it and so forth, but ultimately, he can't forget it for too long, because that is his real essence. And if he forgets it too long, then he can't face himself. What's my life about? What happened? What am I here for? This is the significance of a name. A name is that, a name talking about the essential name, giving it an individual's name, not a name of a species. Like all the creatures in the world have a name of a species. An elephant, a horse, animals, behemoths, and so forth, fowl. Because these species are named by their function. The individual name, that refers to the essence of the person. Because a person stands for the essence. That essence, this is because he actually represents, because his life is a representative of his awareness of the God who created him, of his Creator. And just one second, I just want to finish the sentence. Okay. This is the significance of the names. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more, but the name that when Adam Rishon was created, now follow these words in the Torah. When Adam Rishon was created, it says the following. Zochor and Keva Boro Esau, a male and a female he created them. Vayikro es Shmom Adam be'im hi borom. And he gave the name Adam in the day that they were created. The day when they were created, he gave him the name Adam. Okay, so the Torah is telling us that Hashem gave him this name Adam. What the significance of saying that he gave him the name Adam on the day that they were created? What does that tell us? That he named them on the very day that they were created. Please understand, what this is saying is, if they were called Adam, after they showed what they're able to do, after they went out and started building the world and whatever it is, taking hold of the animals and organizing the world, whatever it is, Adam. He's a capable manager, he's a capable organizer. Give him a name. But this was at the day that they were created, before they had a chance to do anything. Their very presence in the world already allotted them to have a name. And what kind of name? Adam, as you will learn, Adam means Adam el-Elyon, that he is representative of that which is above. So coming back to our Parsha, and then we'll talk about ourselves. This is the Pshat in the Parsha. Eile Shmeis B'nai Yisrael, these are the names of B'nai Yisrael. What does this denote? What does this tell us? That they have individual names. Which means that they come, wherever they are, in Mitzrayim, they come with this strength, with this power, that they don't represent just another creature in the world. They represent a presence that deserves and has a defining element of its own, because it has a real presence, a godly presence. Each individual, every individual. And this is how every individual can sustain whatever challenges are presented to him. Yes?
You're saying each of us having being that we have a different name than the other one represents our essential quality?
No.
No.
We share names.
Right.
It's not because of that, but you have your own name.
Meaning?
Your individual name. Your name is not human being.
Right.
Your name is not student of Seagate.
Okay.
Right? Your name is Shmuel.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
So that name represents the essential quality?
Mm-hmm.
How is that?
You have a name not as a result of anything that you have done in the world. Right? Just by your presence, you get a name. As a matter of fact, we give our children names way before they were able to do anything. Right? Why? How do they deserve a name but they cannot do anything? Their presence in the world is already doing it.
Said that the name helps us get through things.
Well, it's not the name by us It is the fact that we are of that caliber that we should have a name. You understand? How do we know that we are of that caliber? Because the Rebbe gave each one of them names. So that showed that every Yid has that caliber, has that significance.
Sorry, but there are some people that have the same name, though.
Excuse me? You can have, sure you can have your name. The point I just pointed out is Shmuel. It's not a question of that you have a unique name. No other person has the same name as you. But every individual has his own name. He's not named by some kind of an inclusive name, a general name, like a species. A horse doesn't have a name. A horse is a horse. Every horse is a horse.
We are all called human beings.
That's right. But then on top of that, each one has his own name.
Well, people name their horses. I mean, like, if people own the horses, right? So they give their pets names.
Okay. So this, it's very true. It's very true.
Sort of the
Those are people who do not really appreciate the difference between a horse and a human being. Today people speak about animals' rights and animal ownership. In the Torah, an animal cannot own anything. And just the other day, there was a piece of news that somebody bequeathed $22 million to a cat.
What?
Okay? In this crazy world, anything can happen. But that is totally unreal, totally untrue. They live in an imaginary world, not in the world that God created. We, Baruch Hashem, are aware, know what world the Rebbe created. And we try to understand it as best as we can. And live with it and relate to it. Understand ourselves from that perspective. Who are we, and what do we stand for, and what are both the functional and the essential qualities that we were given.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
So when Adam was named Adam, did that represent his functioning and his essential qualities? And when we have the name Adam and our individual name, then it's like Adam represents our functioning and our individual name represents our essential quality. But by Adam, since his name was just Adam, that was both?
Yes. Because Adam, because of his perfection, by him the functioning and the essential were identical.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right. So coming back to ourselves, taking our day as is described in the Shulchan Aruch, from the minute we wake up to the moment that we go to sleep, every aspect of our names, of our day, no matter what the activity is, there is an element of this truth that follows that we recognize and we express. We wake up in the morning. What is the first thing that we think about, and what is the first thing that we do? And contrast that to every other creature in the world. What is the famous, or whatever it is, I don't know if you heard it, there's an advertisement on the radio. The best thing of waking up,
Folgers.
of what? Is Folgers in a cup.
Folgers in your cup. Coffee.
That's what I wake up to. Okay, this is what wakes a person up. What wakes us up?
It's not the Folgers.
What wakes us up? Moi Daniel Lefamech. You have to understand. You do it habitually without even paying attention. You should pay attention. You should understand our lives. And if we understand our lives as it is, as we are doing it at Shmois, we will see that we are in a different world. And we will have the so to speak, the moral and the inspiration to excel and to develop and to do everything that a human being can do. It's an amazing thing that it's conceivable that a person says, okay, it's time to daven. Oh, davening. Again daven. Not realizing what a privilege it is and what a compliment it is. And what a status it is. And what place that places a person in the entire creation. How this elevates him out of the fray, so to speak. Puts him in a different status, a different plateau. The Moidani, the washing Megalvasa, the saying the brachas. The brachas, I'm sure you followed the brachas at least one time and showing that the brachas are simply reflecting every little thing that occurs to us as we wake up in the morning. Opening our eyes, stretching, getting dressed, in every aspect. All that, every one of these elements, each one of these elements by us is a godly phenomenon. We wake up in the morning because we see a godly world. Pekeach evening. We open up our eyes. We get up and we stretch out because we don't want to be tied up. We want to get up and do our thing. That's what a human being, that's what a Yid is. Because a Yid, to have this big world without the host, it's got nothing. Wherever he goes, he has to recognize the host is with him. Then it's a real thing. Then he can eat, then he can sleep, then he can work, then he can do everything. We may not be always conscious of it, we may not be sensitive to it, because actually what happens is that our intellect goes to sleep. Our neshama goes to sleep. And we are functioning at the level of the goof, at the level, the level of the rest of the world. But that's not who we are. That's not who we are. Each one of us, each individual, has a unique name given to him by the Torah, given to him by the Eibushin, because he has a unique presence in the world. Given to him by his Creator. And in this presence, he actually represents, because, Ayid, as you said, Ayid without the host cannot survive. Who am I? What am I doing over here? I don't want to take the dinner and eat in my hole like the cat does. I want to eat the dinner together with the host. This is why we make a bracha when we eat. I once explained, more than once explained, what is the meaning of a bracha when we make a bracha. Hamoitze lechem in the oretz, beire pricho eitz, she'akol ni bidvorei. Seems odd. Beire pricho eitz means he creates the fruits of the tree. Now, I'm holding the apple in my hand. It's already ready, ready to be eaten. At best, you should say he created the fruit. But how can you say he creates the fruit? It's already in my hand, all ready to be eaten.
You create new every time.
What is the meaning of he creates? Please understand, this is a little bit subtle, but we'll understand. We mentioned it many times. When Rabbi created Adam Orishin, and he said to him, "Behold, this big world I have created for your sake, and I'm giving it to you." Almost in this many words, it says, "Pru urvu, be fruitful and multiply. Umilu es haaretz, and fill the earth, v'chivshuha, and conquer, capture the world." In other words, the world belongs to you, and your job is to humanize it and to transform the world into a human world. That's why I created the world. That's why I created you. Now, the human being gets up in this beautiful world that God created for him, and along with the cat, he starts looking for food. Just like the cat is a scavenger, right? Goes looking for food. Whatever it finds that edible, it eats. The human being too. No, that's not the way the human being eats. Human being does not find food on the ground and just eats what's edible. What does he eat? He eats the food that the Rebbe told him, this is for you to eat. And it says in the Torah, this is for you to eat. In other words, when we eat, it is not a fruit from the tree that we found on the tree. It's a fruit on the tree that the Rebbe created and put into our hands and said, you eat this. So we are always the Rebbe's guest in this world. He serves as food to us. And we eat it from his hand. This is the Pshat HaBracha. He now creates a fruit that we should eat. Because the fruit, as it is part of the tree, is not a fruit. It's part of the tree. It belongs to the tree. Who tells you that you're permitted to go and steal the fruit from the tree? The tree didn't produce for you to eat. It belongs to the tree. If you ask a botanist, you know what a botanist is? People who study agriculture. They say, you know why the apple tree produces apples? Each apple contains seed. The seed, when planted, will produce another tree. The apple around the seed is to protect the seed from spoiling. That's what the apple is, as far as the botanist is concerned, as far as the tree is concerned. Just like a nut has a hard shell around it to protect the nut, the apple tree is not a hard shell, but it's also the whole purpose of it from the botanic, from the worldly perspective. That's what it is. Not interested for you to eat. Who made it into food? Who declared it as food? The Eibishter. And he gave it to us to eat. And this is why make a bracha beire priho eitz. He made the fruit which he put into our hand to eat. Everything that we do, whether it is sleeping, getting up in the morning, washing our hands, getting dressed, walking, and everything else, and eating, we are constantly in the company of our host. And that's why that's why we do all these things. And we recognize it by making the brachas. and by davening, and by learning, and by behaving like he. So, just to summarize the reason that I really focused on this, I wanted very much as possible in this period to explain this, is to remember we have a source of inspiration directly, on a constant basis, directly from our Creator. He's with us in everything that we do. And this is not just an imaginary thing. This is what makes a human being a human being. This is that distinguishes a human being from all other creatures. This is why when the human being came to the world became a real world. And if we want to project it to the, so to speak, carry this thought to the very end, the following is absolutely true. If we should imagine that the world is completely empty of human beings, there's nothing, there's just the world, everything else, no human beings, and it's an empty world out there. Any one of us is introduced into the world, anyone, one human being, changes the whole picture, makes it a worthwhile world. Because each one of us represents this godly truth. This is what we stand for. This is what gives spirit to every one of our activities. This is why we'll never give up. This is why we can go through one golus and another golus and a third golus, until we reach the end of time and there's no more golus. Individually and collectively. Okay. No more sleeping.
Oh, for the mission.
Okay. This is it.
Thank you.